Hi everybody, I'm Foggy Michael. I'm an alcoholic. Great to be here. Great to be alive for another day with the friends I know and the friends I haven't made yet. And I was all worried about this because Rachel asked me about a month ago. And you know how things start, going through the head. Oh, I want to say this and I'm going to say that. In the end, I just say a prayer. I say, God, please just help me say something that's going to help somebody. That's what I want to do. So, I was born in Bridgeport, Connecticut. I was 8 years old in 1960. There were five boys. My father was a heavy drinker. He caused a lot of trouble. We were brought up Catholic, and I'm still Catholic. I went to Catholic school, and they skipped me ahead in third grade. I guess they planned it. Then they had me multiply three numbers times three numbers on the blackboard. And the principal was there, my parents, 8 times 9, 72, carry to 7. And then like, welcome to the 5th grade. But I didn't have a say in it, and I didn't realize that wasn't going to be a good thing for me. My father's drinking was really bad. I had a lot of fear at home. They would always play pinochle with my aunt and uncle, and it'd be a grand old time for a while. But we'd be upstairs. But at under an hour, they were fighting every week. Every week. My father's saying things, freaking me out. By the time I was in 8th grade, I started taking graft and corruption. We had a spelling test, and Sister Yvonne said, everybody write out your errors 5 times and hand them in to Michael. Hand them in to Michael? And then some of the guys in the class were saying, hey, I got to run numbers for my father. Here's $1. Can I not do them? And then someone else asked me. And I was intimidated. But I wanted to be liked. Yeah, okay. I said, if Sister Yvonne ever caught me doing that, oh my Lord. But by the time I was in public school, I started drinking with the older guys. First time I drank beer, ended up on the other side of town. Didn't remember what happened. I was all cut up. And that seemed to happen over and over in my life. By the time I was 17, I was out of high school and I was in computer school. And it was a good idea to shoot heroin. And so I did with some other jerks. And worst decision of my life. And from there on, it was just trouble. I went to a hardcore drug program because I had some burglary convictions, and they let you drink alcohol after you start going home after a while, and that was the only good thing about the place as far as we were concerned. I really learned about obsession. I worked in a hospital, and I knew what kind of drugs they had in a hospital and a pharmacy, namely cocaine, and I had this obsession, and I decided to rob this place. My buddy kept trying to talk me out of it. Gaty, you're crazy. Oh my God. And I finally did. I was all whacked out on one day on Valium, and I robbed it, and I shot somebody. And I got myself a 4.5 to 9 prison conviction, and I ended up going a couple more times to prison. I got out. I had friends at first. I played in the band. I was a singer. We were good friends and everything. But then I would steal from everybody. It's embarrassing, but that's what I would do. From my family, from everybody. It was horrible. People were always after me. People wanted to beat me up. I knew I should stop. I couldn't. I had gotten married. It lasted for 7 years. My wife was completely straight. And I played my part in ruining that and pretty much ruined everything, all the relationships in my life. And then, and I used all the other drugs, the speed, the LSD. Had a good time, though. I had a blast doing drugs. I would love to get high. But I always overdid it. And I ended up alone. I ended up in 2 prison riots in Carl Robinson in Connecticut. In 90 and 94. That's a scary place. And what happened the last time I was in prison was around 2000. I gained 95 pounds in 18 months because I didn't. But I realized now I didn't have drugs or booze, but there were sweets. And it was like back when I was a kid, because we used to have sweets in the house, and we all would eat them, because we were always terrified. And here I am again. I was terrified. I was always scared in prison. I never got raped, never got shanked, got in fist fights. A couple years ago, and then forging scripts. That was the thing I started back, I forget, in the 70s. And then, 'cause I studied printing in high school. So I knew how to do that. I started forging scripts. And I would, have to drink like a 6-pack of beer before I could walk into the CVS with a forged script. I didn't want to wait. You got to wait 2 weeks for the appointment for the doctor. Then you got to sit in his office. Then you got to talk him into doing what you want. So I would just forge them. And I got hooked on that. And I stopped doing that finally. A couple of years ago, coming up to now, that's all a BS from the past. I got really sick. Yeah, the first thing was I had a back operation. That was 2 years ago. And my doctors, who are good doctors, put me on a painkiller, popular one. And they know I'm an addict. They know all that, but they put me on them because of the pain, and also I'm good at getting what I want. That's really the truth. And a month later, I had a car accident. And then I got really sick with bowel trouble last June, and I had to have like 3 feet of my bowel taken out, and I had a bag, an ostomy bag. And I had a high output ostomy bag, it's called, and it would make me really sick. They'd send me home from the hospital, I'd get dehydrated, and I couldn't breathe. My electrolytes were out of whack, and I went back. I went back like 8 or 9 times to the hospital, and I was coming to nag. I just cried a lot. I couldn't share. Something I want to say is that back when I was in the psych hospital. I had jumped out of an ambulance, and I got sectioned to this psych hospital, and I was working with a psychologist. I had to be there anyway, and we were talking about my parents, and I had a lot of fear, a lot of anger, and she asked me if I wanted to change the way I felt, especially about my father. And I said, yeah, I do. So she said, I want you to write a goodbye letter to your father. He was dead already. And you say at the end, goodbye, Dad, love, Michael. And she said, can you do that? And I said, yeah, we took the time here. I said, yeah, I could do that. So I would go to my room and I started to try to write the letter, but I just started to cry. And I already had the prison behind me. I had a lot of anger, a lot of hurt. I had everything bottled up inside of me. So I'm starting to write this letter, dear Dad, and I just started to cry. So I finally got a towel. I didn't even have tissues. I got a towel, and I'm trying to write this letter. And I'm trying to go through it. And the idea was I'm going to read this in front of the whole group, all these people whom I don't know. And I kept talking to her and telling her how hard a time I was having. She said, just keep doing it, just keep doing it. And the crying is good. And okay. So we had a meeting, with all these people, and there was an empty chair. The letter was finished. She wanted me to read it to my father in front of everybody. Now I had a towel again because I knew what was going to happen. And dear Dad, a lot of it was, Dad, I'm sorry. But I got through it. I got through the letter. And then she said, excuse me, I want you to sit in your father's chair and talk to you. Like, oh my God. So it went on for like a whole hour. Everybody was crying. And then later I realized a couple days later that my feelings had changed. I didn't have the hatred. I didn't have the bitterness. I had love and sadness. I couldn't say goodbye, Dad, without crying yet, but I was getting there. So anyway, last year, so I'm on these narcotics. I'm in and out of the hospital. It was about 8 or 9 times. It just kept going back. and I'm sniffing all these narcotics. I don't want to name what they are, because that's not a good idea. But that's what I'm doing. I'm lying to my doctors. I'm drinking. And then when they sent me home, I had it's called a PIC line. It's an IV in the arm. And I had this stuff called TPN, which is nutrition in an IV bottle. It would run for 12 hours a day, and I'm supposed to hook it up, every day. And I'm doing that, and I'm drinking, and I'm sniffing these pills, going to AA. I'm wondering what's wrong. Of course I know what's wrong. I have to quit, but I can't quit. But I'm trying. I just kept trying. So finally I got to the point where I couldn't stand myself anymore for lying to the doctors, because there were two of them, a guy and a lady, and I said, I just can't do this anymore. And this is really the problem. So I decided to get off them. And then finally I did, and so I was drinking too. I'm taking TPN, sniffing narcotics, and I'm drinking, and then I fell back in October, and I broke my hip, so that was another trip. But I got off the narcotics, and my sobriety date is February 4th. Excuse me. Didn't expect to start crying again. Yeah, so it's February 4th, so I got off the narcotics, and I was coming, and I said, I got to get a sponsor. So the first one didn't work out, and I said, I still got to get a sponsor. So I got another one, and we meet on Zoom, and it's Big John. My first sponsor was Scott, both good guys. So we meet on Zoom. We're up to There is a Solution. There is a Solution. And the topic I thought about this too, and I don't want to go on and on and on. I could talk for an hour, and you don't want to hear it, I'm really sure. The topic is, what's on your plate today? The hard things, and how are you dealing with it? That's what it is. Lots of love from Foggy. I still want to cry some more, so I'm going to stop. Thank you.